Hi, I'm Pastor Tay of the Titus 2 Ministry and PastorTay.com. Welcome to Espresso. It's an interactive Bible study that is like espresso, strong and smooth. Enjoy the taste. Hey everyone, I'm Pastor Tay of the Titus 2 Ministry and the PastorTay.com. I am a marriage counselor, and welcome to tonight's Facebook Live conversation. You know, I have been on break for the past 2 weeks, if you've been wondering where I've been, and so that was really nice to get away, but it is really good to be back. I want to thank Dr. Don Owsley for teaching inside the Titus 2 community and ECM. I'm just really glad to be reconnected to you guys. So this is a Facebook Live conversation about Christian marriage, and tonight is very special because we are broadcasting live on 2 pages right now. We've got the Titus 2 community. We want to welcome you guys who are viewing from there. Say hello to one another. I'm not looking at the scroll right now. I have George and Joe, who is in my ear right now. We're talking on the phone, and he will tell me about important comments and questions that you have. But anyway, you guys say hello to one another. You can say hello to me as well. And welcome to Explicitly Christian Marriage. Hopefully you guys can see me because we're trying the simultaneous feed right now. Hopefully it's working okay. Give me a thumbs up for that. And we have a third group, and that is the YouTube channel called Espresso. And those who are viewing through that, welcome. Now, if you are watching this on a replay, we want to welcome you. You can still make comments and ask questions. In fact, all the shows are archived inside a menu tab called Units, and I'm pointing to your left. And if you are on a laptop or desktop, the Units tab is on the left side over there. Go check that out for the past shows. And if you're watching on a mobile device, the Unit tab should be right above you, so go check that out, okay? And so when you go there, you're going to see that we are building a curriculum for marriage. So how cool is that? We hope that you will access that and benefit from it. Now, this is the time when I introduce Stuart Martin, but he is sick. And so would you guys offer a prayer on his behalf? And that's why I've been running around and things have been a little bit crazy. Stuart usually makes or takes care of all of those things. So please pray for him. But we still have George Zoe from Toronto. George, I'm probably pronouncing your last name wrong. But he is the director of the Titus 2 community. And he is going to be floating like a social butterfly from both groups back and forth and overseeing and say hello to both. So George, have a good time doing that. And he will field your comments and questions, and then he will say them to me through our connection here. We also have Dr. Don Owsley in Denver, and he's going to provide scroll content, and what that means is he's going to drop in keywords and phrases, Bible verses, and things like that inside the scroll. And then we also have Claudia Harris, okay? Just really surprised that she is available. She is such a busy woman. But Claudia, we're so glad that you are with us tonight. And she's going to be providing scroll support for the Explicitly Christian Marriage Group. And so thanks to all of you who are participating to make this an edifying experience. And so tonight we're going to pick up where we left off. As you know, we have a 4-topic rotation. These are the 4 major topics of a marriage. Let's review them. They are communication, conflict, in-laws, and sex. And what we do is we dedicate 1 week to each of those topics. When we're done, we start the rotation all over again, okay? And so tonight we are on topic number 3, in-laws. Let me tell you, this one is by far the most complicated, the most difficult out of them all, for 2 main reasons. Number 1 is that we have more people involved. The other topics is husband and wife, 2 people. But here, you could have so many people involved. Mother-in-law, your mother, father-in-law, stepmother, sister-in-law. The list is very, very long. And so it just gets very complicated there. And so this topic I'm going to say more than the other ones. We're going to have to really focus and try to deal with one thing at a time. And so tonight's focus topic is stress. And so Claudia, would you drop that word inside the scroll? And Dr. Don, would you also drop that word inside the scroll? And so let me ask you, are you stressed about your in-laws? That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Now, if you have stress, that stress can turn into anxiety or fear, and that fear can become very intense or exacerbated and become a phobia. How crazy is that, to think of in-laws as a phobia, a fear of in-laws? You know, there's a phobia for just about every crazy thing out there, right? Fear of heights, fear of spiders, fear of clowns, and now let's add in-laws to the list. And so fear of in-laws, Claudia and Dr. Don, would you drop it in? It's a fancy word. It's socerophobia. Socerophobia, okay? So go ahead and share that and impress everyone at your next cocktail party, okay? Socerophobia is the fear of in-laws or parents. And so that's a general diagnosis, but you and I know it gets very complicated because some people, you know, their parents pass away, and then step-parents come into the picture. And so there might be a stepmother or a stepfather, and so things get a little crazy, right? And that can lead to stress as well. So maybe you have the fear of the stepmother, which is called norvercophobia, all right? Maybe you have the fear of the stepfather, which is called vitricophobia. You don't have to memorize those fancy names. So I'm just bringing up these things that people are recognizing as actual phobias. But I'm going to stick to socerophobia because that's the general one. Excuse me. Trying to keep it as simple as possible. But can we take just a 10-second time out here and say that I am not insinuating, okay, that your in-laws are automatically evil and they're the ones that cause all the problems, cause all the stress. They are the phobia makers, okay? I'm not saying that, okay? So wanted to offer up that caveat. We want to always, when it comes to conflict, and by the way, you know, the 4 rotation, communication, conflict, in-laws, and sex, I'm going to say in-laws and conflict right there really go hand in hand, meaning the stuff that you're learning in conflict resolution, you're going to be able to apply into the in-law dynamics. Because if we're talking about stress, we're talking about conflict. We're talking about resolving those conflicts. Now, you might remember in the very first show, I mean, how far back was that? You know, 6-7 weeks ago, that in the show on conflict, I said that you have to first look at yourself, okay? That's the first step in resolving conflict. So you know what? You don't want to automatically blame your in-laws for everything. But having said that, let's get started for tonight. We want to take a little stress test, take a look at ourselves, and see how you do, okay? So here's the stress test for tonight. Do you have stress? Yes or no? In fact, tonight, the no answer, okay, N-O, is the better answer, because if you say yes, that means, okay, that you got a lot of stress going on. By the way, George, I'm talking to him in my ear. How are things going? Are both scrolls working okay? Yeah? Okay? All right, you guys are having fun. So anyway, if you guys have any comments or questions, go ahead and relay it to George, and he is going to say it to me. All right. We got a plane flying by above us. All right. It is a beautiful night here in California, and what I'm going to do is begin the stress test right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 major categories, and Dr. Don and Claudia are going to drop it inside the scroll, the 3 categories, and in between, I'm going to ask you a bunch of stress test questions. In fact, a total of 10 questions, okay? And so you guys just answer it yes or no, and we'll see how you do with those 10 questions. But again, they're inside the 3 major categories. So here's the first major categories. Drop it inside the scroll, please. Number 1, first reaction. Write that down, please, if you're taking notes. First reaction. So if I say to you, in-laws, what's your first reaction? In-laws, okay? If you hear that term, or you're in a conversation and then somebody says mother-in-law or father-in-law or sister-in-law, what's your first reaction? Okay, so usually first reactions give you some indication of how you're feeling. So I'm going to ask you 3 stress questions right now underneath category number 1, which is first reaction. You guys ready? Here is stress test question number 1. Okay, so you hear in-laws, and does your heart beat faster? Okay. See, part of the phobia experience is there's physical reactions, okay? So, does your heart beat faster? Yes or no? Here's stress test question number 2. Do you get angry? Okay, so I say in-laws. Does that make you angry? Yes or no? Stress test question number 3, okay? Are you overcome with fear? Yes or no? So somebody says in-laws. I say in-laws to you, and then suddenly does your body tighten up and you become overcome with fear? Yes or no? Now actually there are a lot of symptoms, physical and emotional, related to this, but I just asked you 3 just to get you going, but also to keep it kind of simple right now. So those are the first 3 test questions for you. Heart beating faster, anger, fear. I'm going to give you a total of 10 tonight, okay? But those are the first 3 underneath the major category number 1, which is first reaction. All right, let's continue the stress test, and we're going to get more and more serious as we go along, all right? Number 2, or the second category, is situational stress, okay? When you get married, there suddenly appears a whole set, or new set, I should say, a new set of situations and social obligations. And you suddenly feel it, and your in-laws suddenly, they take it out of their back pocket. In other words, they didn't have those expectations before you got married, but now that you're married, all kinds of expectations are now coming up, and usually they involve social situations or obligations. And so category number 2 is situational stress. Do these situations cause you stress and maybe even sociophobia? All right, here is stress test question number 4. Do you have holiday stress? Okay. Do you have holiday stress? Yes or no? Now this is a stress of trying to please both sides and everyone, really, when it comes to the holidays, because the truth is that most of the holidays do involve in-laws. I mean, think about it. Well, they're all family related anyway, right? Besides what, Valentine's Day? They're pretty much family related. So you got Father's Day, Mother's Day, Thanksgiving. I mean, try to schedule 2 Thanksgiving dinners. I mean, how much can you eat? Not only that, but trying to schedule prime time. So who gets Thursday at 6 o'clock? That's prime time, right? So which side of the family? That can lead to a lot of sensitivities. And so there's Thanksgiving. That can be stressful. Christmas is the big one. And that can be very stressful because on top of all the gift buying and all the food preparations and everything, you got to try to keep everybody happy. And that is not an easy thing to do. And so there's stress in trying to meet all the holiday obligations. Do you have holiday stress? Drop it inside the scroll and let me know, okay? And how are you handling or managing that stress? Because there's the potential for a lot of misunderstandings and stress and fear. These things can run very high. And so we're under category number 2, right, which is situational stress. We talked about holiday stress, okay? That was test question number 4. And here comes number 5. Number 5 is, do you have church stress? Now, I've been counseling for a long time, and there is what's called a church stress. And what that means is there's an obligation that you feel. Not everyone, but a lot of families feel an obligation to go to church with the extended family. So you got your parents or your in-laws, and then what, after church you go on out for Sunday brunch. And so there's all kinds of obligations that go along with church, and that can get complicated, right? because sometimes being in one church, it's highly possible that that one church is not agreeable to everyone, and so that can lead to a lot of stress. And so you got holiday stress, you got church stress underneath situation, and then the next one, number 6. Okay, this is stress test number 6. Are you following this? Okay, I'm going to give you a total of 10. We got 3 categories, and underneath I'm inserting in a total of 10 questions. This is number 6, and that is, do you have surprise visit stress? Yes or no? Surprise visit stress. I'm thinking everybody has one of those surprise visits, especially in the earlier part of your marriage. This is a stress or fear that comes from the sudden or surprise visit by your in-laws or your parents, okay? So they call you while they're on your way and you got 10 minutes to clean the house, right? That can be stressful. Or you come home and you find your mother-in-law gardening in your backyard. She's planting tulips. That actually happens quite a bit. Or you come home and she's in the kitchen and she just baked you an apple pie. How nice. But that can lead to some stress, and you know what? If it's not just apple pie, if it leads to other things that are awkward, there's a true story. The couple that I counseled, they were actually having sex, and the mother-in-law just walks right in. So how embarrassing, how awkward. But what a surprise visit, huh? Did that happen to you? Okay, were you in the middle of something, sex or an important conversation, and then in walks your mother-in-law or your parents? Now, how does that happen? Is because she's got the key, right? And so in all those situations, she's got the key. And so how is it that she got the key? Drop it inside the scroll. Did you give your mother-in-law a key? Did you give your dad a key? Who's got a key to your house? All right? That can lead to a lot of complications or stress. And so we've got holiday stress, church stress, we've got surprise visit stress. And so all of these underneath big category number 2 is situational stress. These are situations. And I'm going to say the situations are difficult. I'm not trying to downplay it, okay? Situations can cause, heart beating faster, right? You hear that your parents are coming, heart might beat faster, nervous, can lead to some sort of socerophobia, okay? These things can happen. But if it's a situation, I'm going to say, from my counseling, the situations can be managed, okay? I'm not saying it's easy, but they can be managed. So what's the answer? The counsel is to try to minimize that stress in the situation as much as possible. You can't get rid of all the situational stress. You can't get rid of the holidays, okay? But maybe you can get rid of some of the other things. In other words, manage the situation in such a way that the stress reduces. In other words, don't blame your in-laws for everything. Some of that stuff just comes with the territory. Some of that stuff is just situational. And whenever it's situational, you have the ability to adjust the situation a little bit. Does that make sense? Tell me if it makes sense. Give me some thumbs up, okay? And tell me if that agrees with you. So in other words, okay, there might be expectations, okay? But those expectations can be adjusted. Communication is always the key. So you want to try to manage those expectations. In fact, let me talk to you for a minute. You need to also manage your expectations of behavior, social etiquette, things like that. And so even when it comes to your own personal expectations, maybe you can drop some of them as well. And that should help reduce some of the stress. So as much as it is possible, okay, be patient, long-suffering. These are Christian life things, right? These are things that we need to do in other areas of our life. These are things that we need to apply to marriage and to other situations. And so continue to do that. Long-suffering, understanding, do it with a smile, okay? And thank God that they don't live with you, okay? So it's temporary. Or do they live with you? Is that why you're under extra stress? All right, we're not going to talk about that, okay? If you want to drop that in the scroll, go ahead. But I'm going to say in the previous show, on in-laws. I talked about living with in-laws, so you want to access that. That's the beauty of having the units tab on your left side. Go ahead and check that out, and you want to learn from that show. But we got to move on, okay? And so I'm going to give you a total of 3 major categories here. We've got number 1, which was first reaction, right? Number 2 is situations, okay? And then number 3, wow, this is now probably the most difficult one of all. Before I go any further, George, anybody got a comment to say? Any questions in there right now? Nope. Nope, everybody's having a good time, okay? All right, so, okay, first reactions, we've got situational stress, and then number 3 is relationship stress, okay? So, George, are these things being dropped inside the scroll? Dr. Don, Claudia, you guys okay? So, number 3 is relationship stress, okay? So now we're talking about relational stress. It's about the relationships getting kind of tense, okay? It's very, very awkward. You know, things like this happen. And this, by far, out of the 3 major categories, first reaction, situational, relationship stress is by far the most difficult. And here, it gets really crazy. And you might need some counseling. You might need to go see your pastor or elder or mentor or find a counselor and deal with this, because it gets really, really crazy. I mean, think about all the combinations you got here. Mother-daughter, mother-son, father-daughter, father-son, stepfather, stepmother, sister-in-law. There's so many combinations here and relationships that could go south that it is not easy to do. But let's try to keep it simple here. And I am running out of time. We try to keep these shows about 30 minutes, but looks like I'm going to go a few minutes over. I hope that's okay. But we are on stress test question number 7. Okay, so this is number 7 underneath category number 3, which is relationship stress. You guys ready? Are you stressed because you're trying to keep peace? Yes or no? Are you stressed because you're trying to keep peace? Now, this is the stress where others in your extended family are having a stressful relationship. So it's not you, but now people on both sides, they're not getting along. Things are kind of tense, and you're caught in the middle, okay? And you're trying to make everyone happy, and that's causing you stress, okay? So you now have the stress or the sociophobia because people are not getting along. Now, that stress, okay, I hate to say it, is not going away anytime soon, okay? It's been historically proven that anytime you are in the middle and you try to fix the situation by, and here's my point, okay? Make sure you understand this. If you try to fix the situation by staying right in the middle, usually doesn't work. Peace is not going to work. In fact, it often backfires because they think you're not supporting them. So let's say your mother-in-law is on one side, you got your wife on the other side, okay? And so if you are in the middle and you want to be a referee, you want to be neutral, you don't want to take sides, that is the wrong move. Because in those situations, chances are you are going to make everybody unhappy. Hey, did you ever watch sports? Football? Basketball? I mean, nobody likes the referee, right? Okay? Everyone is yelling at the referee, thinking he made the wrong call, right? And so it's a no-win situation for the referee. So listen, you put on the zebra shirt and you try to be a referee, it's a no-win situation. Now, we talked about this dynamic a little bit in the previous shows. You want to go back and access that, all right? And so we had a show in the Titus 2 community, for example, called The Man in the Middle. And so that's what we're talking about here. If you are in the middle, okay, this is actually a very problematic position to be in. You can't win. Because if you're in the middle, there is no way that your wife is going to be happy. And chances are, you're not going to make your mother happy either. And so this is going to be a very difficult situation to be in. Sometimes he'll agree with his mom. Sometimes he'll agree with his wife. You know, listen, how did that play out in your life? Okay, chances are, if you really think about it, it was the wrong move. And so what's the right move? The right move is for you to side with your wife. I mean, you married her, okay? Remember what marriage is. It's about leaving your father and mother, okay, and going over. Now, in previous shows, I talked about still giving them honor and respect and all of that. But listen, commitment and loyalty, I explained, goes to your wife. And so from that position, you try to make peace, okay? And from that position, making peace, there is a greater chance for it to work. Listen, the caveat is, I'm not saying that your wife is right on everything, not saying your husband is right on everything, but what it means is that you are in a position now showing that the marriage is a non-negotiable, showing that your marriage is strong and that you're committed to one another. And from that position, you may need to correct your wife, but the point is, from there, you try to fix the situation. So, the man in the middle, that's what the experts call it, okay? That is a no-win situation. Get out of the middle, slide over to your wife, and from that situation, begin to try to make peace, okay? And so that's my counsel to you. Otherwise, sociophobia is going to develop. You stay in the middle, your wife is going to become very distressed because she's going to be all lonely and she's going to feel like nobody is supporting her. And then your mom's over there, she's not happy. You can't win. And so slide on over and fix the situation from that side. All right, we got to move on. That was question number 7. We've got now stress question number 8. And if you got a comment or a question, man, it's quiet tonight. I'm shooting on 2 communities and I don't even have 1 comment. Okay. Are there any thumbs up? Okay. I can't see anything right now. So I'm just talking to 2 phones right now. So anybody got a comment or a question? Come on now. We are on stress question number 8. George, you have a question or a comment? Heather, who in the Titus 2 community, George tells me, usually gets a perfect score. I mean, we've ran tests before. She is now saying or confessing that she is not going to get a perfect score tonight. All right, Heather. Okay. You're going to join the thousands, how many couples, okay, that will not get a perfect score tonight. It is tough, okay? As I said in the beginning, it's just how it is, right? You got too many people involved. There's bound to be something that's going to go wrong, or it goes right for a long time and then gets bad. I mean, it's just kind of the journey, right? Okay, so Heather, prayers are with you, but hey, we all need prayer, right? That's the situation. Okay, here it is. Stress test question number 8, and I want you to really think about this. Okay, Dr. Don, Claudia, get ready to drop this inside the scroll. Here's number 8. Are you stressed because you feel second-class treatment? Yes or no? Tonight, the no answer is the better answer. But do you feel second-class treatment? I deal with this all the time in counseling. I say, hey, do you feel like second class? And they're like, yes, that's what's going on. It's so easy to feel that if you are not careful. Now, this one is complicated because it might be true that you really are being treated as second class, or it might be your own hypersensitivity. Again, there could be a lot of perceptions that are not true. But again, you're going to have to deal with it through counseling. But right now, let's move on. Regardless of whether it's true or not, this is just something that has to be understood. You know, this was actually made famous by the Disney movie Cinderella. Did you guys see that movie Cinderella? Let me tell you, that is one movie I cannot watch. It is just hard to watch. Hey, call me a softie, okay? Whatever. But I have a hard time watching that movie because poor Ella, okay? That was her name, Ella. And all that she went through with her mother dying, and then her father dying, and then the evil stepmother. Listen, I'm not saying every stepmother is evil. Okay, don't misunderstand. Don't overreact. I'm not saying every mother-in-law is evil. But poor Ella. Wow, what a difficult movie to watch. The stepmother comes in, right? And she favors her 2 daughters, Anastasia and Drusilla. And then immediately treats Ella with second-class treatment. And so difficult as she has to do all the chores and she loses her room and she has to go up to the attic and remember all of that. And there was one time she slept by the fireplace just to keep warm. I mean, just a total second class life. And then she woke up and she was covered with soot or I want to say embers, but cinder. She was covered with cinder. And so when the stepmother and her daughters saw her, they mocked her and called her Cinderella. And so her name was a mockery and a representation of her second-class treatment. And so there are a lot of daughter-in-laws right now that feel like Cinderella. Do you feel like Cinderella? Do you feel like that every social event you got to wash the dishes, you got to clean up? I know that in a lot of cultures that does get handed down to the lowest person on the totem pole, so to speak, right? And that's the daughter-in-law. She's got to do all that, and she can walk away from every Thanksgiving dinner, every social event, just angry that she's disrespected and feels like Cinderella. But to be fair, to cover across the board, I'm going to say that there are a lot of guys that feel that second-class treatment. This is a very big problem. Feeling like they're never good enough. There are a lot of guys that feel that way. That they're never going to make enough money or do enough things to live up to the standards and expectations that the wife's parents had. And so the Cinderella effect is kind of across the board in the in-law dynamics. And so after years and years of disrespect and second-class treatment and always feeling like you can never live up, that could lead to soulserophobia. So even the mere mention of the in-laws and your heart starts beating faster, or you get nervous, or you start sweating, or you start getting frustrated, and all the feelings of second-class treatment start coming in. Let me tell you, I have dealt with this over and over again in the counseling session. And one of the frustrations is, for example, this is a common example where the daughter-in-law or / wife is feeling all this Cinderella syndrome. The husband on the other side doesn't know what is going on. He doesn't even see it. Why? Because he's so comfortable with his mom. He's so comfortable at home, excuse me. And so, the wife is even more frustrated and, watch this, lonely and feeling like an outsider. And nobody's going to understand her. And so this becomes torture to her, that she's got to live like Cinderella for every social event, and her own husband doesn't understand. And so the problem becomes very, very serious. So you know what? I remember in one case, I thought it was very powerful. I actually have 2 audios called Soulserophobia Part 1 and Soulserophobia Part 2. These are 2 audios. It's about 2 hours of stuff. It is available on PastorTay.com. And I recommended these audios to this couple who were really struggling with soulserophobia. And you know what they did? They downloaded it to their phone, and then they laid in bed and put the phone right between them and spent 2 hours listening to all this about the man in the middle, Cinderella, and all of these things. And in the counseling, she said, "Pastor, I looked over to my husband, and for the first time, I could see that he understood what was going on. The light bulb was going on, and for the first time, he could understand." And she told me how tears started rolling down her face because that's all she wanted. She just wanted her husband to understand all that she was going through. Up to this point, it felt like her own private hell, that she had to carry this burden all by herself. And nobody could understand what she's going through. But she looks over to her husband and she sees kind of an awareness, the raising of awareness. And so her point was that made all the difference in the world. Ladies, talk to me. Drop it inside the scroll. Tell me if you would appreciate it, if your husband would understand a little bit better. Tell me if it would bring some healing, if your husband's awareness of the situation would be a little bit greater. I'm thinking that sympathy and empathy. Do you know the difference between the two? You guys Google that in your own time. But I'm going to tell you Sympathy and empathy will go a long way in the healing process, because just getting on the same page, and just for the husband to say, all right, I get it. I was really comfortable and I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were going through all of that. Just acknowledging that and communicating all that, remember communication is the key, is huge. And so hopefully you guys can get on the same page about the Cinderella effect and about all of these things, and begin to experience some healing, okay? Now, we need to move on because we are running out of time. And so let's review the three categories. We had first reaction, we had situational stress, and then number 3, relationship stress. Now, in conclusion, I'm going to ask you 2 more quick questions, okay, about stress, and that'll round it out to 10, and then you can tally up the scores, okay? Here we go. Here's number 10, just real quick. Do you blame the in-laws for everything? Yes or no? Okay. So, did I say that was 10? That was 9, okay? Stress test. Question number 9 is, do you blame your in-laws for everything? Listen, don't do that. Don't automatically blame them for everything. I don't want the show to have that flavor, okay? That we're just bashing the mother-in-law, okay, mocking the father-in-law. That's not what this show is about. This show is about understanding the situation, diagnosing it, and offering you some quick solutions. But you know the real solutions come in mentoring and counseling and finding people who are more mature than you who can help you through the situation. So let's confirm, not every mother-in-law is that wicked stepmother in Cinderella, okay? And not every daughter is innocent as Ella. So listen, if you blame them for everything, your socerophobia is not going away. Did you hear me? Your socerophobia is not going away. Your fear, your anxiety, nervousness, heart beating faster, nervous, it's not going away if you constantly blame somebody else. Blame shifting is not the answer, okay? So that was question number 9. Here it is, the final one. Stress test question number 10. Do you blame your spouse for the problems? Okay, do you blame your spouse for the problems? Yes or no? Remember, no is the better answer. So you don't want to blame your in-laws, that was number 9, and you don't want to blame your spouse, number 10, because if you do, your socerophobia is not going away. Socerophobia is very complicated, and it's not as simple as blaming other people, blaming situations, you got the short end of the stick, woe is me, self-pity, and all that other bad stuff. That's not how it goes away. It goes away first by looking at yourself, okay? You might remember, again, in that first show that I did on conflict resolution, go to the units tab, please, and find it. In that first show on conflict, I said this, and Dr. Don and Claudia, please drop this in. Self-inventory is the beginning of conflict resolution, okay? And so you want to first take inventory of yourself. What can you do? What can you do to make the situation better? That's always the first step. Not going to elaborate on that. We did a show on that, but I just wanted to remind you that you need to apply all the things that you learned in the conflict shows, okay? And try to keep in-laws and conflict together, wrap it up, and begin to apply the biblical principles there. So there you go. You've got the 10 stress test questions right there. What's your score? Remember, the no is the better answer, okay? Anybody get a perfect score? Okay? George, did anybody get a perfect score? You guys go ahead and tally up the score. And not that I can see, huh? That's what George just said to me. Tough. Very tough to get a perfect score, okay? And so listen, Raina got a perfect score. Raina inside ECM. Good job, Raina. Okay. All right, not a perfect score, but hey, truth is, right, nobody's perfect. In fact, we are all dirty, rotten sinners in need of the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, right? So that is the truth. But let's do our best and continue to apply it. That's it for tonight. Sorry I ran a little bit over, okay? I think Dr. Dan really ran over once, okay? So he beat me on that. But ran a little bit over tonight. Let me close it up by saying that it was great to have the 3 groups with us tonight. Titus 2 community. Good job. You guys behaved yourself tonight. Hopefully you guys are good to one another. And we have the Explicitly Christian Marriage. Welcome to this new time slot, and we're so glad that you are here. Now, you might be wondering, why did we move it to this time slot? And one of the reasons to merge the groups together, or 3 groups together, is that you will have the benefit of guest speakers. Because when guest speakers come, we need to make it easy where they speak once and it gets broadcasted to multiple communities, okay? And so that's an extra blessing that we are looking forward to. It's not just going to be me speaking, but the future plan, which is an upgraded plan, is for guest speakers to come in. And I'm just very excited that we can bring in top-notch counselors and teachers who are going to help you in your marriage walk. And so here's the good news. Okay, you guys ready? And Dr. Don and Claudia, would you drop this in? Next week, okay, same time, okay, same bat channel. Next week, we have Eileen Scipione, okay? Eileen Scipione, next week, she will be teaching on sex. And so remember the rotation, communication, conflict, in-laws, and sex. Eileen is a nationally, if not internationally recognized biblical scholar or counselor with over 30 years of counseling experience. She is just about to publish a book on sex, Christian sex, and we've already had her speak once inside Titus 2, and we're excited that she is scheduled for next Tuesday, and she's going to speak on sexual intimacy, and you don't want to miss that, okay? So next week, guest speaker Eileen Scipione. And so we want to close by just thanking God for the opportunity to think about Christian marriage and how we can live to the glory of God. We know that this is one of the most difficult subjects. And so if it is difficult, go ahead and would you check out the Titus 2 Ministry webpage. That's going to give you more insights. George, if you could drop it inside the scroll, please. Go to that website, titus2ministry.org. Also, we have a newsletter if you want to subscribe, and that'll keep you updated. George, you can drop the link in for that. And then also, PastorTay.com has resources, audios like Socerophobia. Go ahead and check that out, PastorTay.com. And if you need prayer, of course you can contact us. You need support, if you need counseling, you know where to find us, and you will receive a prompt response. So anyway, let's give God all the glory. So glad we had this opportunity. Did everything work out, George? So far, I didn't hear any explosions or things falling apart. George, are you still there? Is everything working okay? Okay, great. All right. So that's it. You guys have a great night. It's been fun. We'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Thanks for joining us for a devotional drink today. If you love Espresso, click here to subscribe so you know when the next one is ready to enjoy. Visit our website for resources for every chapter of your life. And if you're thirsty for more, click here. See you next time. May God bless your day.